Inventory costs typically include all the costs that are associated with the item, carrying, ordering, holding, and managing your inventory. The total inventory costs are broken down into four distinct categories: item costs, carrying costs, ordering costs, and stock out costs. These amounts are reviewed regularly by business owners and/or management to determine how much inventory to keep on hand at any given time. Businesses are always looking for ways to optimize inventory levels while still maintaining a healthy cash flow and not tying up resources. In the next few modules, we will discuss these four aspects of inventory costs. Before we do, though, we'd like to ask you a question that you can answer in the community, upcoming assignments section, or on a piece of paper at your desk. What types of costs do you see with regards to inventory management? And how do you think you can reduce those costs? We look forward to hearing your response with regards to the costs that you may be experiencing, and we'll see you in the next lecture. When you think of inventory costs, you likely think of item costs first. This is one of the basic costs that associate themselves with your inventory. When thinking of item-level inventory item costs, it typically includes the price that you pay to acquire the item as well as any costs that you may incur when purchasing. Some examples of extra costs that you may have incurred with item-level inventory as part of these costs are taxes, duties, fees, packing, and even transportation fees. Unit costs generally change based on the size of your order. For example, if an aerospace shop wants to order one item, it would likely be more expensive than higher volume orders. This is because you would need to buy materials, which commonly have minimum order quantities, as well as tear down and set up machines for only one item. When a higher volume of parts is made, the materials costs and the setup costs can be spread across the higher volume of items. The same applies to transportation fees. Shipping one item in a truck is much more expensive for that one item because it must incur the entire truck expenses. Likewise, shipping many items in a truck allows you to pool or spread the costs across multiple items. And that's it. Item costs. Now that you know what item costs are, we'd like to put your new knowledge to the test. In this module, you learned that the volume of items can make a cost go up or down. Why? We look forward to hearing from each of you in the community, upcoming assignment section, or on a piece of paper from your desk. And we'll see you in the next module. Holding costs are all the expenses a company incurs to hold inventory items over a period of time before they are used to fill orders. Inventory carrying or holding costs generally account for 15 to 30% of a business's total inventory value. This makes it all the more important to watch your holding costs. In the next few modules, we'll look at what exactly holding costs are with relation to inventory. Inventory holding costs are directly related to the volume of inventory you hold. There are three different elements of inventory holding costs, which are capital costs, storage costs, and risk costs. Let's look at each of these three categories a little closer to understand more about holding costs associated with inventory. Capital costs are the costs required to purchase raw material or inventory items, along with financing fees, loan maintenance fees, and interest. They refer to the money that is invested in your inventory. The capital costs are generally different based on the industry that you are in. For example, service industries and manufacturing industries vary significantly with regards to operations expenses, as different opportunities are available to invest in. When making decisions about capital costs and your investments, it is important to consider what opportunities there are. This is an opportunity cost analysis. Opportunity costs come into play because when looking at capital costs, you must consider what the return on your capital could have been if it was used for something other than inventory. Opportunity costs are also something very familiar to investors. When answering the question, why do investors need to consider opportunity costs when working with capital? The answer is quite simple. Investors must consider the rate of return they will receive from the opportunity so that they have some understanding of how they will continue to supply capital to an organization. And that's it. The basics of capital costs as it relates to carrying costs. We'll see you soon, right here on Lean Strategies International LLC, where you can find solutions that ignite your power. Storage costs are another important element of your holding costs. When you think of storage costs, you should think of any of the resources that you use to handle and store your inventory. These costs may be direct or indirect money spent on storage of your goods. Storage costs can also include costs for warehousing, warehouse equipment, space, rent, electricity, software, depreciation, and warehouse personnel. In most cases, storage costs are described as a percentage of your inventory value. A very important thing to keep in mind is that when you increase the volume of your inventory, your storage costs will go up too. Likewise, if you have expensive equipment, lots of unused space, or personnel, this can cause the storage costs to rise as well. On the other hand, lowering inventory frees up space, which reduces storage costs and may require the usage of less equipment, which also reduces your storage costs. With this in mind, we would like to extend a question that you can brainstorm to begin thinking about your storage costs. What items do you have at your place of work that may add to your storage costs? You can answer the question in the community, upcoming assignments section, or on a piece of paper at your desk, and we'll see you again soon. One element of holding costs is risk. Risk costs are the risk that is assumed when inventory is acquired. In addition to this, risk costs refer to loss of inventory value. This is often referred to as the shrinkage that occurs within inventory. Inventory shrinkage occurs when actual inventory levels are less than what is recorded. In general, this means something has gone wrong. Formally defined, inventory shrinkage is the depletion of the actual quantities of inventory that is on hand, in process, or in transit. This may be caused by regular reductions, scrap, deterioration, or even theft. Inventory shrinkage is calculated by subtracting the actual inventory from the recorded inventory and then dividing your answer by the recorded inventory. Then you multiply the answer by 100 to convert your answer to a percentage. This percentage can be used to have an understanding of the shrinkage that may occur within your inventory. In addition to shrinkage, risk costs of inventory also include any costs that a company incurs to manage the risks of their inventory. Expenses like warehouse security, insurance, and bars on windows or locks are some examples of inventory risk costs. You now know what risk costs are with relation to inventory. Now let's challenge your mind a bit. In this lecture, you learned how to calculate inventory shrinkage. Remember, it is calculated by subtracting the actual inventory from the recorded inventory and then dividing your answer by the recorded inventory. Then you multiply the answer by 100 to convert your answer to a percentage. With this in mind, let's assume that the actual amount of inventory on hand is $100. However, your recorded inventory is $150. What would your inventory shrinkage percentage be? We look forward to hearing your answers in the community, comment section, or upcoming assignment section, and we'll see you right back here on Lean Strategies International LLC, where you can find solutions that ignite your power. Order cost is defined as a direct labor cost that is incurred when an order is placed. Ordering costs are different from the order costs. The ordering costs are all the costs associated with the purchase order and any labor involved in inspecting the goods when received, any labor associated with stocking the received items, invoicing suppliers, and issuing payments. Ordering costs can typically vary tremendously between orders. Some examples of ordering costs might include the administrative tasks that are associated with generating a purchase order, such as computer work, communication, analysis, as well as tracking orders and ensuring that vendors receive their payments. Another example of ordering costs that are often overlooked are the costs associated with receiving orders in, inspecting or checking the orders, and ensuring that the order is handled in an appropriate way. Lastly, ordering costs can also occur internally within a manufacturing plant. For example, there may be time taken to set up your order or tear down your order. These costs can, in some organizations, be attributed to ordering costs as well. It is important to note that when setup and teardown times are excessive, a company loses capacity, and that also means they are not producing value. You now know what ordering costs are. In short, ordering costs are the costs that increase as the number of orders placed increases. In other words, ordering costs are directly related to the number of orders placed and not the volume of an order. This includes costs that may be related to different types of clerical work like preparing, releasing, monitoring, and receiving orders. It can also include the physical handling of goods, inspections, and setup costs. Now, let's stretch our minds with this new knowledge. You can share your answers in the comments section, community, or upcoming assignments section. What are some examples of ordering costs that you are aware of at your place of work? We look forward to hearing your responses, and we'll see you in the next module. Ordering costs can skyrocket when managing inventory. On one hand, you want to keep your inventory levels low so that you don't tie up cash, and on the other hand, you want to have inventory on hand so that you are placing a high volume of customer orders. Both have their positives and negatives. One of the more common ways to go about lowering ordering costs is to use an approach known as joint replenishment. Joint replenishment is a technique wherein products are ordered in groups, families, or simultaneously rather than individually. Joint replenishment is often referred to as joint replenishment model. In the joint replenishment model, several items are ordered from a single supplier, and several products share the same means of transportation. In other words, a group is ordered, set up, transported, or manufactured to pool the costs across many items, which ultimately creates a discount. A joint replenishment system is most commonly used in multi-item inventory replenishment. It helps to improve on the total cost when ordering items individually because they are grouped together. There is, however, one critical element that is necessary for joint replenishment to work, and that is there must be some kind of commonality amongst the items being grouped and replenished. By coordinating the replenishment of several items, cost savings can be obtained by sharing the cost of activities like setup and transportation between items. In many practical situations, it is desirable to jointly order and replenish items because they may share the same supplier or use the same method of transportation. And that's it for joint replenishment. Now, before we go, let's stretch our minds a bit and consider the following question, which you can answer in the comment section, upcoming assignment section, or from your desk. Do you have any activities, items, or information that you could apply the concept of joint replenishment to? If so, how would you do this? We look forward to seeing your answer in the community, and we'll see you in the next module. Have you ever wanted something to snack on really bad? So you jump up, head to the store, and when you get there, they are fresh out of inventory. Have you ever made the decision to purchase a new vehicle and you go to the dealer and the vehicle you wanted isn't there, so you go home and order it online instead? Inventory stockout costs. These are both examples of inventory stockout costs. Stockouts occur when the inventory you have on hand is not enough to fulfill the customer's demand needs. Likewise, a stockout might be when there is inventory, but the inventory is not what you wanted. As you can tell, one of the biggest costs of a stockout is lost sales, frustrated customers, and damage to your reputation. So, how do you quantify this? Well, that can be difficult. For example, in the case of lost sales in a period, it's not just the sales. You need to quantify the lost sales for that period, plus all the work that it takes to create, track, monitor, and eventually deliver your back-ordered items. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Let's say the customer is really frustrated with your stockout, and they turn to another supplier. Now your marketing of the product is waste. The space you set aside to store your inventory is waste, and you may trigger a massive bullwhip effect trying to catch up with your out-of-stock items. As you can see, the effects of stockout costs can really compound. They can also have a long-term effect on business as well. If a business is always out of stock and they cannot replenish in a timely manner to support the demands of a customer, then they begin to develop a reputation for always having stockouts, and this will turn a lot of customers away. Worse yet, if investors get wind of this frequent stockout, they may hold back on funding, which will ultimately lead to tight funds and a company's inability to scale against their competition. It seems pretty clear that stockouts, especially on the external environment, have a huge impact on an organization. So what is the impact on an organization internally? When a company experiences frequent stockout of material, subassemblies, or components internally, production is usually delayed. This can cause bottlenecks, increase lead times, and layoffs when a company doesn't meet internal goals. In addition to this, oftentimes, in an effort to contain these stockout effects, companies use additional resources to try and speed up the process, as well as spend astronomical amounts of time on setups, changeovers, and teardown of machines. This makes it all the more critical for an organization to control their stockouts. There is a fine line between carrying too much inventory and never having enough. Continuous improvement strategies like Lean and educating employees in inventory management techniques and education can help an organization control the impact that frequent stockouts can have on a company. You now know what the impact of inventory stockouts might be if they aren't managed properly. We'll see you in the next module. If you hold tons of inventory, it will solve all of your problems, right? Wrong. It will solve many problems, but it may cause other problems as well. It is fairly common knowledge that carrying extra inventory will lower ordering costs. This is because with excess inventory on hand, orders for inventory do not need to be placed frequently. This is not the only impact of excess inventory, though. Indeed, when you carry excess inventory, your ordering costs will go down, but your carrying costs will also go way up. You need space, racking, packing, and advanced techniques to manage larger amounts of inventory. On the other hand, lowering inventory without the use of systems like Kanban and effective replenishment techniques can cause your ordering costs to go through the roof. You see, less inventory means you need to replenish more frequently. It also means that your carrying costs will go down. As you can see, inventory management is a balancing act. Lower inventory too much, and you will be going crazy trying to manage replenishment. Likewise, carrying too much inventory, and you tie up resources that may be used in other more effective ways. Companies must be aware of the impacts that may occur as they adjust item-level inventory levels. It is important to remember that every company will be very different. For example, a make-to-order company that has longer lead times and exists in an industry that builds complex parts may be able to manage carrying next to no inventory, while an assemble-to-order environment may need to keep buffers of components on hand. Each company should look to manage inventory in ways that work for them. Strategies like Lean, Six Sigma, and even the theory of constraints can help too. Now, before we go, we'd like to ask you a question. What would happen to your company if you lowered or increased your inventory? Share your thoughts in the community, upcoming assignments section, or with someone at your place of work. We look forward to seeing you in the next module.